At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Happy Monday morning to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. You're watching Coffee with Krueger. Hope you got your cup of coffee out here this morning and you're joining your Monday morning. And this is something we've been talking about since last week, and it is knocking on our door, folks. We're already seeing some of that rain along the coast. Nothing terribly heavy at this point, but there you can see out at Harbor District in Crescent City, we've got the wet conditions out there this morning. Winds are starting to pick up a little bit here as well in advance of that cold front. Let's take a look at the radar and see what's going on out there. This is kind of a bigger perspective of the clouds that are moving on in. So we do have the overcast skies that have moved on in. A closer look at the radar right now, and this is a loop from the last 6 hours. We did see a few showers that actually did kind of push through even Trinity County in western Siskiyou County. Even a few lightning strikes north and west of Crescent City late last night, early this morning, and just some of those showers right now, mainly in Del Norte, but even out towards Garberville, southern Humboldt County. We're starting to see some of those showers as well. Hey, before we get into that forecast here, I want to remind you that this weekend, yes, Saturday, is the Manton Apple Festival, October 4th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. A lot of great events going on here. They got the handmade crafts, apple products and pies, food vendors, live music all day. They've got the apple baking contest, which I have been a judge for many, many years, as well as Mike Quinn. My wife, Sadie, is going to be a judge this year. There's going to be a celebrity bake-off as well. My wife and I are going to be making an apple pie as well. So we're very excited about all the great events going on at Manton Apple Festival. So be sure to put that in your calendar here between 9 and 4 p.m. this Saturday. The question is, will it be raining this Saturday? Well, probably not. Let's take a look at our weather headlines. First of all, cooler and wetter start to the week. We have two separate storms that we have our eyes on. One moving through today and tomorrow. Any rain we see beyond that, Wednesday, say Thursday, will be few and far between, just some cool and unsettled air. And then warmer and drier by the end of the week and this weekend. Just in time for the Apple Festival, actually, right? So here's a look at your Monday, September 29th, Krueger's Quickcast. We've got a lot to talk about in the deeper dive, but before we get to that, just a quick look at your forecast for today. Temperatures in the low to mid 60s right now. Really, we look at the overall temperatures across all of Northern California. We're not seeing a very big spread for all locations, mountains, valley, or coast. Basically, between 55 and 65 degrees, give or take, right? But you get the idea. It's fairly mild out there this morning, and that's because of the added cloud cover we are seeing this morning. So out the door this morning, 8 a.m., mainly dry for the valley. There may be a sprinkle, maybe a light shower 8 o'clock this morning, but the bulk of any rain at 8 o'clock this morning will be on the north coast, western Siskiyou County in particular, and Trinity County. Elsewhere, we're going to hold off until later in the day for everyone else to get up on that rain. Now, there is a wind advisory for today for central Siskiyou County, gusts up to 50 miles per hour. For tomorrow, for both central Siskiyou County and Del Norte and Humboldt counties as well. Also, possibly seeing those south gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour. That's all thanks to the cold front that's passing through. You can see this morning, we've got those gusty winds, especially for central Siskiyou County. That's the case midday. But notice even the valley, eastern mountains, seeing some gusty winds at times as well. But I think the strongest winds will be in the central Siskiyou County region. By this evening and tonight, the winds will start to subside as the cold front moves on out. But then we've got another cold front moving in for tomorrow. That's going to allow those winds to pick back up again as well. Central Siskiyou County and the coast, in particular, seeing some of those stronger winds here for tomorrow. So let's take a look at Futurecast here for today. And you can see this morning at 8 a.m., it's beginning to hit the coast. Some of the heavier rainfall there. That will push eastward. By about 10 a.m., still the heaviest rainfall, gusty winds, thunderstorms are a very good possibility. And you can see the valley, you see some of the showers we're seeing there, and really elsewhere. These are what we call prefrontal showers. And sometimes you can get a little bit of instability in advance of the main cold front itself. And that's essentially what we're seeing there. So as I mentioned, through the morning hours, if we see a stray sprinkle or a light shower in parts of the valley, don't be surprised. Then as we go into midday, that cold front is now over the western Siskiyou County region and Trinity County. This is where we're seeing some of the heavier rainfall. Now take note, the rainfall doesn't look to be quite as intense. That's because at this point, the cold front is beginning to break apart. This is normal for us. We see this a lot. The cold front passes through. It really hits the coast hard, even parts of western Siskiyou and Trinity County. And then as it moves over those mountains, we see that storm system begin to break apart. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see anything for the valley, because it will be strong enough to produce some activity for us later this afternoon. But even 3 o'clock this afternoon, we could see some redevelopment along that boundary and could see some pretty strong thunderstorms developing in Siskiyou and even into Trinity County. But even the valley, seeing some of those thunderstorms begin to pop up, especially for the north end of the valley down to, say, Red Bluff and even Corning. But you see what's happening? As it moves over the valley, it's beginning to really lose a lot of its energy. So as you head south, places like Chico, Willows, Oroville, you may see a stray shower this afternoon, but nothing significant, nothing to the extent that we're going to see for the north end of the valley, where we could see some of those thunderstorms. Even this evening, we could see a round of thunderstorms developing out towards, Willows, central and western and portions of the valley, and then northward. Now, I think this might be overdoing it a little bit here, but it is something worth watching as we go into the evening hours, and then going into places like Chico, most likely not seeing any of that. So your rainfall totals for today alone, here's your standard footprint that we typically expect. Heaviest rainfall north and west of the valley. Redding, okay, it depends on if we see those thunderstorms. If we don't see the thunderstorms in Redding, probably a lot less than what you see there at 4,400s. But just depends on where you are in the valley. But you get the idea as you head to the south in the valley, not as much rainfall. To the east of the valley, not as much rainfall. But we could pick upwards of a ½ an inch to an inch just today alone, not including what was for the coast, that is, not including what we'll see tomorrow with tomorrow's storm system. So for today, you've got showers, possible thunderstorms in the forecast, mainly for the north end of the valley, say Tehama County northward. But even Corning, Willows later this evening could see a thunderstorm. Chico, Oroville, your chances are slimmer. I think everywhere in the mountains, everywhere along the coast could also see some thunderstorms. You're going to have to hold off until late in the day, though, before Modoc County, the eastern mountains, sees that. For tonight, we're looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 50s for the valley, 40s and 50s for the higher elevations, and low to mid 50s for the coast. Mainly dry tonight, by the way. Now we take a look at your 7-day forecast. So I think the best chance for thunderstorms will be in Redding, Red Bluff, but just maybe a stray shower in Chico. Better chances for rain for Chico, I think Wednesday morning in particular, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But what you'll notice is by the end of the week, this weekend, it's drying out and it's warming back up. Your 7-day forecast for the coast. Heaviest rainfall will be this morning, as well as the inland areas by the afternoon. It will start to diminish here significantly. Trinity County, rain, thunderstorms, heavy at times, gusty winds. We can continue that off and on chance for showers here through Wednesday, maybe even a lingering shower for Thursday, that is, before drying out and warming up over the weekend. For Siskiyou County, chance for thunderstorms today, off and on chances for showers Tuesday, even through Thursday. Alturas isolated for your Tuesday, Wednesday, as well as, say, eastern mountains. And when we look at the longer range forecast, when we get into the deeper dive, you're going to see and really begin to see why we're not expecting as much rainfall for Modoc County, the eastern mountains. This is typical for us. We see the heaviest rainfall along the coast. The valley typically can see more rain than places like Modoc County in the eastern mountains. All right, so that's your Krueger's Quickcast. Let's take a look at what's going on with the fires, and this is sponsored by Garmin's Tractor Service. So you can see here for the Dillon fire as of the 24th, so no big new updates here. The good news is there are no evacuation warnings or orders, at least for these fires. Here you can see Syed Valley, Blue Fire. This is as of yesterday morning, 3,713 acres at 83% containment. And we take you out to the Log Fire, where we do have, as of the 27th, so 2 days ago in the morning, 97% containment. I'm going to show you something here. We're going to go into watch duty. Let's see what's going on with the fire in Weed, because that was obviously a big concern yesterday. At this point, there are no evacuation orders, no evacuation warnings, right? There are a lot of threats and concerns yesterday. We take a look at it now, and the incident is now being deactivated from Watch Duty Map. This will be the final update unless conditions change. So what that's saying is it's no longer really that much of a concern. Now, the winds are going to be picking up, so that's obviously going to be a bit of a concern here with really any of these fires. But the good news is any rain, we're going to be looking at rain. So we're kind of most likely with the Blue Fire, Dillon, and Log fires, most likely we won't be talking much more about these fires here coming up in the near future. So that's my overall projection, because again, even though those winds are picking up, that you can see here, a wind advisory for central Siskiyou County for today and tomorrow. Now, the wind advisories for tomorrow for Del Norte and Humboldt counties with gusts upwards of 40, 50 miles per hour. So these cold fronts that are passing through, the one today and the one again tomorrow, is really going to help to elevate those winds, unfortunately. So the main concern with the winds, not necessarily fires, but the potential for power outages. I mean, you think about this, that we still have a lot of leaves on the trees, and when you see the windy conditions, especially the weak and dead trees can have problems, and you can see down trees and eventually maybe some down power lines as well. So that's something to be concerned about here as we go the next few days, especially for central Siskiyou County. High-profile vehicles, if you drive a big rig down I-5 in central Siskiyou County, be aware that you could see those gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour or higher. That's even midday. But notice the valley. Even around midday, we're seeing those winds pick up there, even in the eastern mountains, before we start to see those winds subside. And that's mainly because the cold front at that point is moving eastward and really kind of just fizzling out. So much calmer winds late tonight, tomorrow morning, but then we have that next round of wind, especially for central Siskiyou County. See that big blob of red in central Siskiyou? That's 50 miles per hour or higher. We're seeing 20, 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts for the coast. Really through the day tomorrow, seeing some gusty winds even for parts of the valley and eastern mountains as well. And then you can see as we go into Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, those winds should subside. So really, we're talking about the rain, we're talking about the potential thunderstorms, but do note that the winds will be rather gusty at times, especially once those cold fronts begin to kind of move on through. So let's take a look at Lake Oroville camera here this morning, and you can see a blurry camera, but we have the overcast skies out there this morning, and that's going to be the case for pretty much everyone with those overcast skies. This is Lake Oroville in North Forebay. The wind really not blowing that much this morning, at least for the valley. Taking a look at Main Street Chico on Highway 32. Looks like you've just got can't really see it, but there are the overcast skies there as well. Looks like the cameras are kind of freezing up a little bit here. Let's see if they kind of catch up here. Doesn't look like that's the case, but still dark. Can't really see a whole lot as far as even that cloud cover. This is Highway 44 at Sundial Bridge Drive in Redding. You've got the overcast skies there as well, mainly dry right now. There's a look at Crescent City Harbor District, and we're looking at that rain this morning. It's not terribly heavy right now, but that rain will pick up in intensity. The winds will also begin to pick up in intensity as well. This is a look at Bald Hill West. There you can see the overcast skies looking down at Hoopa Valley, as a matter of fact. We're going to be looking at some showers there eventually this morning and into the afternoon, and some heavy rainfall, maybe even some thunderstorms. This is Soda Ridge. Looks like actually foggy. A lot of low clouds out in that region out there this morning. We take a look at Fort Jones this morning, and you can see some of the overcast skies, and looking off in the distance, it looks like it's even trying to rain in some of those areas as well. We're going to take a look at Sundial Bridge Drive here, excuse me, the Sundial Bridge. We've got a couple people out there enjoying this cooler weather and overcast skies, but there is no rain out, at least in the valley, just yet. So this is that perfect morning to get out and enjoy that cooler weather before the wet weather does kick in here, most likely late this morning, and especially as we go through the afternoon. All right, well, today is Monday. We've got our Turtle Bay Tuesday, which is sponsored by Grange Co-op. So we are going to meet a bird by the name of Suerte, I believe is how you'd say that, in this week's Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals, that is, sponsored by Grange Co-op. Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger, and you are watching Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals. You've got Sharon Clay from Turtle Bay, that is, and Suerte. Is that Suerte?
It's actually, if you want to say it properly, it's Suerte.
Suerte.
But we we butcher it and say suerta.
Okay, suerte. Okay.
So suerta or suerte in Spanish means lucky.
I think Rico Suave because of the haircut.
There you go. That would work too. She's a female though.
Oh.
So she is a girl.
Rica
She's like leaving us.
Suave.
Come on over here, little girl. So she is a rescue, like most of our animals here at Turtle Bay. And she has a really interesting story. She was actually struck by a semi-truck in Texas. And the reason why we named her Suerta is that she traveled on the grill of that truck for 100 miles. He hit a bird on the interstate and just knew he killed a bird, so he just kept going. His next stop was at a rest stop 100 miles down the road, and she was still alive, stuck to his grill. She survived. She has a wing injury, so you might be able to tell that wing right there is a little bit drooped from the other one. And she had a foot injury at the time, which is completely healed, but she couldn't go back out into the wild because of it. But we thought she was pretty lucky that she survived that. And these guys are found more down in Central America. These guys are found in Mexico and farther down. So we thought we'd give her a Spanish name. So we found out, Lucky in Spanish.
Lucky. And we were talking earlier about that they're typically found in South America, right?
Yeah, well, there's many species of caracara. Caracaras are actually, believe it or not, members of the falcon family. Falcons are known for speed, but these guys are not. As you notice, she walks on the ground. She just like walked right out of the screen.
Yeah.
But they walk on the ground more like a chicken, and they scratch the ground and turn up the ground and the soil for their food, kind of more like, look at her walking right now. She looks like a chicken.
Yeah, you got her dialed in. Getting the food on the
that's
ground.
right.
Yeah.
So these guys will eat off the ground like that. But she's actually a member of the falcon family, even though they act not quite like falcons do. But there's a lot of species of them. You find different species in South America, Central America. The crested caracara is found in Mexico. They're actually on the flag of Mexico. And they are found also up here in the United States. You find them in the tip of Texas, and you find them in the tip of Florida, and the tip of California.
There you go. And they're finding them farther and farther to the north, though, right?
Yeah, they are. So, conditions change, habitats change, climate changes, it does change,
Yes.
no matter what your reason of why, it does change. And it's changing on them. We're having a lot of droughts and things like that. And so it's harder for animals sometimes to find food and find water. And so they're finding these guys are migrating farther and farther north to the point that a few years ago, these guys were found near San Francisco. This past spring, we had one that was found near Point Reyes, I believe, one up almost as far as Sacramento. And in this spring, I think, September, just recently, they actually found one here in September 2025, all the way up in Canada, which is
Canada,
so out of their range.
They were looking for maple syrup. I think they're...
Sweet tooth. Sweet beak.
Yeah, sweet beak.
Sweet beak. And so, but they couldn't survive up there. She has bare legs. She's got a bare face.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't be able to survive there long term. But it just shows kind of what happens with wildlife. They've got to find food. They have to find water. And that's the deal with them.
Well, so Stuart is obviously getting very bored with us here. So I think this might be the end of the conversation here. Stuart, thank you so much for at least spending some time with us. I know you're too cool for us. I know. Thank you, Sharon, and we will see. Oh my goodness, good thing the camera wasn't going on there. We'll see you next week for Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals. So what you didn't see there was that Suerte was up on a bench and, well, decided to go ahead and relieve herself. It was not a pleasant sight, but hey, that's what happens when you work with animals. Once again, I want to thank Grange Co-op for sponsoring a Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals. We couldn't do it without our sponsors. So very grateful for them. We got a couple of people checking in this morning here, and we have got, that's not what we've got, that's Friday. But we've got Curtis Brown saying, good morning, Mike and everyone. Have yourself a wonderful day. I certainly appreciate that, and checking in this morning. I hope you do too. If you're maybe working outside this morning, enjoying the cooler air, we've got good morning from Barry Pina. And we've got Lisa Stevens saying, happy National Coffee with Krueger Day. I like what she did there because today is National Coffee Day, right? But she added the Coffee with Krueger Day. I think that should be a day. What do you say we submit that to the National Calendar Day? Happy National Coffee with Krueger Day. Although there are no other Coffee with Krugers other than here in the North State, because it's all about Northern California, right? That's what we do here. So yeah, thank you, Lisa. That's a great idea. I like it. Well, as you know, we were talking about our sponsors here. We certainly are very appreciative of our sponsors. So just want to give a shout out to our Coffee with Krueger sponsor. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Hey, by the way, as these storm systems pass through, we are going to see some interesting photos. Whether there are power outages, down trees, power outages, because of some of the gusty winds that we will see, rainbows, lightning strikes, thunderstorms, rain, maybe a few flooded areas, nothing major, but you maybe see some of that as well. I'd love to see photos of those. I think everybody else would love to see those photos. So if you get a snapshot of any of those photos, send them through the free Weather NorCal app, and I'll share them on the morning forecast at 6 a.m. right here on Coffee with Krueger, and maybe even on social media. And rainbows too, right? I mean, the works. Check it out. Send those photos. We'd love to see them. All right, let's get into our deeper dive forecast. So for those of you that are new to Weather NorCal, my forecasts tend to be a little long, but at the top of the show, I do a quick cast. And that is just a quick look at the forecast for those of you that are in a hurry and don't have a lot of time. But if you want to go into the deeper dive and really get some of the juicy details of the storm system, well, we do that. So let's start with the satellite and radar. But before we do that, we're going to start with the current temperatures. And you can see, really, if you look at the overall temperatures, we're not seeing a very big spread. Obviously, warmest in the valley, in some of those mountain valleys as well, and some of those higher elevations obviously gets cooler. But generally between 55 and 65 degrees, give or take, depending on where you are. Now, the rain that we've seen so far this morning has mainly been to the west as expected. This is in advance of the main cold front itself. We're seeing some thunderstorms and lightning strikes just popping up just north and west of Crescent City this morning. You may have heard a few rumbles of thunder. Maybe if you head out, if you live near Smith River, for example, you may have heard some of those rumbles of thunder off in the distance. But in the meantime, you can see most of the showers right now are mainly in Crescent City, but also south in southern portions of Humboldt County, and we've got more coming in from the south. Now, this is just the beginning. It's going to get a little bit stronger. But you can see there's really a sharp cutoff with the rain and the clouds, really, for that matter, and it's right here. So as this pushes eastward, we're going to start with the coast, seeing the heaviest rainfall, gusty winds, thunderstorms. As the cold front pushes eastward, you're going to see heavy rainfall for Trinity County, Siskiyou County, right? Then as it heads over those mountains, that storm system will break apart. And we're going to see more rain for parts of the valley, but I think the north end of the valley will see more rainfall than the south end of the valley, at least for today. Okay, and maybe even an isolated thunderstorm. And then off into Modoc County, Eastern Mountains, you're just looking at stray showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm this afternoon as that cold front approaches. Then there's another one coming in behind that, by the way. Now, this morning, and even since yesterday, the Storm Prediction Center has been all over with this map, all over the place. And this is the best representation I've seen so far in the last 24 hours. However, I don't think we're going to see thunderstorms down here. We will see thunderstorms elsewhere, but I also think we'll see some thunderstorms here, especially this morning for Del Norte, Humboldt counties, and really even into western Siskiyou County as well. Siskiyou County, I think we'll see thunderstorms too. So again, I don't think the Storm Prediction Center has this completely dialed in, but that's pretty normal for us here in Northern California. All right, so here's a look at our future cast. So what we're looking at here, number one, right here is the cold front, okay? In advance of that, sometimes you can get what we call prefrontal showers. In advance of the cold front, sometimes you get a little bit of instability and you see some showers developing. So through the morning hours, everywhere east of the coast, we'll see a chance for some light showers, but the heaviest rainfall will be along the coast. By about midday, we're still seeing some of those prefrontal showers to the east, but now we have the cold front right about here, okay? That's where the main cold front is. We're seeing some heavier rainfall still for parts of the coast, western Siskiyou County, Trinity County, and you can see just west of the valley, but still not a lot of rainfall everywhere else. This is midday today. So if you're in the valley and you're saying, well, I thought it was supposed to rain today. Well, you're going to see some showers to start off the day, but then you see what happens? It's still holding on to some of its strength. And you can see here by 3 p.m., we're seeing some pretty strong thunderstorms developing in northern Shasta, central Siskiyou, but even parts of the valley could get caught up in some thunderstorms. Now, here's what I'll say about this particular forecast model. It tends to overdo it sometimes with the overall intensity of the storms. I do think we will see some showers and maybe even an isolated thunderstorm, especially for the north end of the valley. Now, again, we're still seeing some of that prefrontal activity here, so maybe some light showers around Red Bluff, Corning, and maybe even Chico, but the heavier rainfall will be to the north. Then, as we go into about 6 o'clock this evening, a lot of that activity pushing north-northeast. Now, the HRRR forecast model that we looked at a little bit earlier did have a lot of activity here, even at 6 o'clock this evening for the north end of the valley. We'll have to watch for that, but I tend to agree with this a little bit more. As that cold front pushes eastward, it will be significantly weaker than it will be this morning on the coast. But there you can see some of the showers down to the south. Now, overnight tonight, I still think there'll be some stray showers, maybe even an off chance for a thunderstorm off in the eastern mountains here. This is looking at midnight tonight, by the way. Okay, then overnight into tomorrow morning, for the most part, overcast, fairly dry. But the cold front's still pretty far off to the west. Now, what you'll notice about this second round of rain is that it's not quite as strong and quite as intense. There's not as much dynamics associated with the storm either, so we probably won't see as many thunderstorms. Now, there may be a stray thunderstorm here, but probably not as much. So by midday, most of the rain is still west of the valley, basically for the north coast and parts of Trinity and western Siskiyou County. Then we take you through the afternoon. You see how that breaks apart very quickly. And we're just looking at some scattered, isolated, off and on showers throughout the day. This is representative of a lot of times in the winter when I talk about a cool and unsettled weather pattern. That's essentially what we're looking at. Mostly cloudy skies, off and on showers throughout the day on Tuesday, a little breezy at times too. And you can still see a lot of that just stray shower activity overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Now, what's interesting about Wednesday morning is you can see kind of a boundary or a disturbance pushing through to the south. So places like Chico, Willows, Oroville, Paradise, into parts of Plumas County, through the morning hours, you've actually got this flow of moisture and activity that could bring some rainfall for you through the morning hours on Wednesday. And then by Wednesday afternoon, that really does start to fizzle out. And then what we expect to see here for your Thursday is maybe a stray shower here and there for parts of the higher elevations, but overall, we're really drying things out by Thursday. All right, so take a look at through Tuesday, right? So today and tomorrow. Here's your standard footprint with these storm systems. You see where most of the rain is? North, west of the valley. I think we could see anywhere from, say, 3/4 to an inch to an inch and a half. Heaviest rainfall will be in Del Norte County. And this is typically the area where we see the most amount of rainfall right here, western Siskiyou, northern Humboldt, and Del Norte County. As you start heading to the south and east, you start seeing less and less rainfall. Now, what we have here for Redding is close to a half an inch. That is a possibility. Should you get caught under a thunderstorm, you could easily see upwards of a half an inch. If you don't get caught under a thunderstorm, you're going to be closer to 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of rainfall. And you'll notice not nearly as much rainfall down to the south or to the east. Standard, typical rainfall estimate outlook, because that's where most of the rain is typically to the north and west. Now, remember we were talking about that chance for rain coming into the south here? I think this is way overdoing it. I don't think Chico's going to see an inch of rainfall on Wednesday morning, but, you know, it could maybe 1/4 to a half an inch. We'll see. Something worth watching here over the next few days. But we begin to see a little bit more rainfall for parts east of the valley. That's through Wednesday. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Thursday, things are really starting to kind of fizzle out. And it's really negligible, any rainfall we do see on Thursday. There's Thursday midday. Again, maybe a stray shower, sprinkle for some of the higher elevations. But as that moves eastward, the cooler air starts to move on out, and we've got high pressure building in for Friday and through the weekend. Remember, I was mentioning the Mansion Apple Festival is this Saturday. Beautiful weather for it. Absolutely beautiful. What got my eyes on, though, is this area of low pressure right here. The models all agree that sometime early next week, this low pressure will come down, could bring some showers, maybe some thunderstorms for the northern Sierra, maybe the southern Cascades here for Monday, but I think everyone else will remain dry. Precipitation outlook, drier than normal. Yeah, we're talking about all this rain, but really, once this rain passes, it's going to dry out going into next week. Cooler air moving on in, that moves out, but then another shot of cooler air coming into Tuesday and Wednesday. And then you can see that pushes through Thursday, keeping our temperatures cooler. And then by Friday, that cooler air begins to move on out. We've got warmer air moving in, and then there's that next shot of cooler air coming in by early next week with that area of low pressure moving in. So fall is here, folks. Last week was officially the first week of fall. It didn't feel like it, did it? Temperatures were, well above normal in the 90s, right? But now we're starting to feel more like fall here this week and even going into next week as well. So definitely a lot more pleasant out there. There's those temperatures here down to the mid 60s by Wednesday. Temperatures tick back up. But really you'll notice even though we're going to see the temperatures warm up, they're going to level out. By the time we get the second half of the weekend and into next week, we're talking about temperatures in the low 80s, which is below normal for this time of the year. Lake levels, no big surprises here. Of course, this continued to drop. 105% of that historical average for Shasta Lake, 122% for your Trinity Lake historical average. Now the wave heights are going to be dropping today, so there is that small current advisory this morning. That will be allowed to expire here though by 10 o'clock this morning. Now it looks like the wave heights may start to increase come Tuesday, Wednesday. We may be talking about more small current advisories or even gale warnings. We'll see. South winds at about 10 to 15 knots for today. Your waves from the southwest at 5 feet at 7 seconds. And from the northwest at 6 feet at 12 seconds. Here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. And looking at Trinity County here for today, we've got those temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, even some low 70s. I mean, we're talking about some strong thunderstorms, hail, gusty winds, especially as you go late morning and early afternoon. And then more often on chances for showers, possibly even through Thursday before we dry things out as we go into your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And when we dry things out too, we'll also begin to warm up a little bit here, but still low to mid 80s. I don't hear any complaints. Here's your Dignity Health North Coast neighborhood forecast. Maybe a stray shower or even a thunderstorm here this afternoon, or mainly this morning. The afternoon, late in the day, it'll be mainly dry. So most of the rain you see for the North Coast, including the inland areas, will be this morning. Then as we go through the afternoon, your chances for showers will diminish. I mean, there'll still be a stray shower, most likely through the afternoon, but nothing to the extent of what we're going to see this morning. 64 degrees for Gasquet, 72 degrees in Orleans. And your Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast brought to you by Dignity Health. Western Siskiyou County starting off first, and then eventually central and eastern Siskiyou County getting in on those showers and thunderstorms. Scott Valley, you got thunderstorms here coming in by late morning, early afternoon. Rain could be heavy at times, and central and eastern Siskiyou County, showers and thunderstorms. And by the way, as I mentioned, off and on chances continue possibly through Thursday, drying out and beginning to warm up as we approach the weekend. For Modoc County, you're not going to see a lot of activity really over the next few days. Now, there may be a stray shower or thunderstorm this afternoon, but isolated showers come Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, drying out and warming up by Friday and Saturday. How about the eastern mountains? Well, for Bernie, you got a chance for a thunderstorm today, maybe a chance for a few scattered showers here and there Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe lingering into Thursday before drying out by the time we get into Friday and warming up as well. For Lake Almanor and Lassen Park, you got a chance for thunderstorms this afternoon. Now, the thunderstorms we see for the eastern mountains will mainly be scattered, isolated. So not everyone is going to see those thunderstorms, but everyone will have that chance. So as we take a look at the eastern mountains to the south, look at Susanville, for example. You see how we've got the thunderstorms here for today, and that could be this afternoon into this evening. But just a chance. I think you'll be dry for the first half of the day on Tuesday, and then by Tuesday evening, Tuesday night, maybe a stray shower. Wednesday, maybe a stray shower as well as Thursday, and then drying out and warming up. Now for Paradise, you've got showers off and on through Wednesday, maybe lingering on Thursday before you dry out and warm up for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I don't expect much in the way of thunderstorm activity for Paradise, if at all, over the next 3 days. Here's your Dignity Health Valley neighborhood forecast to the south. You got those temperatures in the low 70s. So for Oroville, showers. I don't anticipate a lot of thunderstorm activity for you, if any. And then better chances for rain, I think, by Wednesday, especially in the morning. Taking a look at your 7-day forecast for Chico. Same story here. Not a lot of rain for you today or tomorrow. You've got that heavier rainfall coming in possibly for Wednesday morning, drying out by Wednesday afternoon. It warms up by Friday, Saturday, Sunday with temperatures back in the low 80s. We take you up to the north. We could see some thunderstorms for the north end of the valley later this afternoon and possibly even into the evening hours. Otherwise, temperatures low 70s out towards Whiskeytown, city of Shasta Lake, and Lakehead, somewhere in the mid to upper 60s for your daytime highs. And looking at your 7-day forecast for Redding, temperatures in the low 70s today and tomorrow, mid 60s by Wednesday, and then we start to slowly warm up after that, in the low to mid 80s by Friday and Saturday. So yeah, it looks like we definitely do have some wet weather in the forecast, showers, thunderstorms, certainly a very good possibility out there. So if you've got outdoor plans, this is definitely today, and really the next few days is just kind of a weather aware day. I think the best chances for thunderstorms will be today, and then as we go into Tuesday, the storm system, as I mentioned, the cold front, not quite as dynamic, not quite as strong, so we may not see as many thunderstorms for your Thursday. And then just behind that second cold front, we've got cool and unsettled air. And what that essentially means is mostly, partly to mostly cloudy skies. There will be some breaks in the clouds, and there will be some off and on scattered sprinkles, some light showers from time to time, and in some areas could see a brief period of some moderate to heavy rainfall both Wednesday and even to Thursday before we dry things out entirely by the end of the week. So that is pretty much it for us today. Of course, I mentioned Lisa Stevens was saying Happy National Coffee Day. I love this. It's National Coffee Day, but she said National Coffee with Krueger Day. So we take a look at the calendar. Let's get that up here, and taking a look at, well, we don't want to look at that. Oh, come on, seriously? I want to close that. There we go. So there it is, the National Coffee Day, September 29th. Who doesn't love a good cup of coffee, right? Whether getting one to go or lingering over a second cup, which is what I'm doing this morning, on September 29th, be sure to observe National Coffee Day. So there you go, National Coffee Day. Let's take you back, and we also have some other interesting days. We've got Urban National Wildlife Refuge Day. On September 29th, Urban National Wildlife Refuge Day celebrates the 101 Urban National Wildlife Refuge, 101 Urban National Wildlife Refuges in the United States. That is nearly 1/5 of the country's total refugees. Man, that's crazy. All right. And we've got National VFW Day. On September 29th, National VFW Day honors the men and women devoted to this valuable organization and those members who have served our nation. Members of the organization named Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW, today hold a long-standing history of volunteerism in their communities. Not only have they served their country, but they continue to serve their fellow veterans, families, and communities by sponsoring scholarships, career fairs, mental wellness campaigns, and so many more excellent services. Well, that is awesome. That's something that should be celebrated every day. That's what that sounds to me, but these are great things to maybe just create more awareness for people who are interested in veteran affairs. I mean, that's just fantastic. I love hearing about those kinds of programs. That's awesome. All right, well, that's going to do it for us this morning. Hope you have yourselves a great rest of your day. We are going to leave you with that 7-day forecast and a couple of other cameras in the area. This is looking out at Soda Ridge. Boy, it's been kind of overcast there, some of the low clouds and a little bit of fog there. Have yourselves a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow morning right here live at 6:30 on Coffee with Krueger. Have a great day.